The journey continues. Your boy Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, hashtag ending the stigma together. I think it's fun to say the word hashtag out loud. Like, that's a funny thing to me. Hashtag ending the stigma together. And it's together. And it's ending because it means we're doing it. And that's an action verb, as they say. So it's important to me to have the dialogue. I don't know the answers. I tell you that every week. I don't have all the answers, but I have friends who have insight, who see the world through a different lens than I do, and through a different lens really than my other guests have seen it. And we're going to together work on ending the stigma. So with me today, I have my friend Rosemarie Kluepfel, the conference director, right, for the veterans, for the Fairway Foundation Veterans Conference and Resource Fair, which is coming up very soon.
Yes.
I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. You're welcome. When we talked recently, we were talking about ending the stigma from the perspective of our veterans and the veteran community. And the Resource Fair and Conference is to become an access point, to share resources, to give veterans, caregivers, family members, and the general public at large an understanding of what opportunities and resources there are for our veterans. That's how I understand it.
And also to raise awareness, you know, since less than 1% of the population serve, I always say the other 99% don't really get what's going on. And not to their, not to any fault of their own. They just think, if you ask anyone who is not in the veteran community or have a family member or a close friend that's serving or has served, they just think the VA takes care of our veterans.
Sure.
And
like
the reality
like
is,
anything they need, it's the VA.
Yeah, just the VA. We have the VA system. Like,
Right.
what's the problem? And 50% of the veterans probably don't even go to the VA.
Yeah.
Because they don't want things on their record. You know, if you go to the VA and you tell them that you're having, you're depressed or have anxiety or suicidal, they're going to put it in their record. And then if you want to go and get a civil servant job, you want that to be labeled forever on your medical report, and it's crazy too. They'll take your gun away. Meanwhile, the one thing veterans know how to do is they are trained to use guns. You know, and so for them that's like punishment.
Sure.
So yeah. So last year, after meeting, my daughter's serving in the military. So after meeting more and more family members of those serving and finding out how horrific some of the stories are. Mothers who have lost their children to suicide upon returning after serving our country. Other mothers who have lost their children in battle from, again, serving our country. And then those who have attempted suicide, come back and had reckless behavior, and literally, had signs of post-traumatic stress and not seeking help. And again, because they don't want to be stigmatized, and also because of the training that they're given. They're taught to be the elite military machine of the world and never show weakness.
Right, can't show weakness, right?
Can't show weakness. And also, they're told, the other person always needs it more. Don't help me, someone else needs it more. I'm okay, I'll be okay. And, so my answer was, I don't have all the answers, but doing nothing is not an option. So to me, I see, living on Long Island, that there's so many nonprofit veteran organizations and so many government agencies that specifically are there for our veteran community. So that's not lacking. They're there. But somehow there's a disconnect. So how can we maybe just change the trajectory of what's going on? And I said, well, let's get all the players in one room. So we put together a conference and invited some people to be on the panel. The Suffolk County Executive was one of our speakers. I also asked the Nassau County Executive, who wasn't available but sent a video address because his stepchildren were actually in the military as well. So a lot of us, Long Island has the highest population of veterans in the state. And we're a big state. Yeah, and one of the highest in the country, which is surprising. But that's because they're not wearing a uniform. Once they get back, the person online in front of you at the supermarket might have served your country, but you're not going to know.
You don't know. There's no.
Yeah, and some of them don't want people to know because there is a stigma that veterans are unstable, and whenever you see some big headline of someone who did something wrong, they'll always make sure to mention whether or not they were a veteran. So in any occupation, there's going to be good and bad, right?
Of course,
There's amazing police officers, and then there's always going to be that one bad apple, right? So the same thing with the veteran community. So again, my goal is I don't have all the answers. I'm just like you. I don't have the answers, but doing nothing is not an option. I feel that if we all get together and do amazing things like you're doing this show, we can let them know that they're not alone. And that is the theme of this year's conference.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
I don't want anyone to ever think they're alone. I actually give people my cell number and tell them to call me because I want them to feel like someone cares about them. And I've spoken at different places, libraries, VFW halls, American Legions, and I give out my name and number, not because I have any title or any position that elevates me in any way, but if you come back and you don't have a strong support system, a strong mentor or mentors to come back to, I don't want you to feel that you have no one, and that even if you just want to talk to someone, or I know a lot of people, so I don't have the answers, but maybe I can connect them, like someone like you.
Well, it's about being a bridge. It's about being a conduit, right? And not to be self-deprecating, in general, I say, not just on the show, I say in most cases I don't have all the answers and I don't know. And that's, to me, that's empowering to say, I don't know, but I know people. Right. I can connect. Just the other night, when we first connected earlier this week, I made a bunch of phone calls and a bunch of emails, so I get a handful. And out of that, some new organizations are now going to be involved with your event. Not that you didn't know these organizations, but I made a phone call to a couple people, right, and some text messages, and out of that, that's not so much about me, but it's about what I've done for relationships over the years. So what you're doing by giving out your cell phone number and saying, hey, call me if you need support, call me if you need help, utilize me as a bridge to some services you might need. That's all we can ask for. And
they may never call, but knowing that they have somebody's phone number and name and their cell number and their cell phone may make them feel better. And I live with the idea of nobody wants to have regret. And you never want to say to yourself, what if?
Right.
What if they had someone they could have called? Or what if somebody could have answered their question? Or, but to me, it's just letting them know that there are people out there that care, because I think they believe. The stigma is that when they come back, people don't really care about them. They've fulfilled their service for how many years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, and that they're on their own now.
Yeah.
And it's a different lifestyle. It's a different culture when you serve in the military, because you join. A lot of them join 17, 18 years old right out of high school. So I always say they leave their mother's house. Yep. They go out to see the world. Sometimes the world is not such a nice place. They're making life and death decisions at such a young age without any other experiences, and then having to come back, and they were told what to do 24/7, right? When to go to bed, when to work out, when to do drills, and now they come back, and it's almost like a kid going off to college and having a really strict parent, and now being able to make any decisions they want, and not necessarily always making decisions that are in their best interest.
Well, without guidance, too.
No guidance.
Right? No guidance to make those decisions, and having no context to have ever had to make those specific decisions. And now you're 28, you're 35, you're 40, whenever you came back home, and that lack of support is challenging.
Well, there's no real transition.
Yeah.
You're going from one extreme to the other. Yeah. You're going to the extreme where you're literally told what to do 24/7 to you could do anything you want 24/7. Yeah. And even talking about having anxiety, the story I always tell people, because I want people to relate, is that you're 18 years old, you've just been trained to be the elite military in the world, right? American, U.S. Military is known for being one of the elites, and you're standing guard because it's your turn to watch the barracks while everyone else is sleeping. And there's a child coming towards you with a backpack. What's in the backpack? what's in the backpack. You don't have to make a life and death decision at such a young age.
Right.
And you're told that if you make a mistake, lives are going to be lost. So do you shoot a child that may be harmless, or or do you take that chance and maybe have some of your platoon
Potentially
hurt
lost.
and potentially lost, and have so either way, it's a hard decision. And even if everything goes well,
Yeah.
and nothing happens, and it's diffused and nothing happens, that child's face may haunt you for the rest of your life. And you try to suppress it. And how do you suppress anxiety and depression, right? Drugs,
Yeah.
alcohol, reckless behavior, kind of just trying to keep really busy so you don't think about it. But then one day, your own child is walking through the house with the backpack.
Flashbacks.
And that happens sometimes. I have met people where incidences where they were doing okay, and then all of a sudden something happened and it triggered a memory, an emotion, and brought them back to that place, and they can no longer go back to work. And and my daughter, who's serving right now, she seems to be doing fine. So I'm not concerned right now. But what about the other sons and daughters? And that's why I give out my phone number. And I tell them you can call me 24/7. And the reason I say that is if my child called me at 3 in the morning, do you think I would answer?
Of course.
So it's somebody's child.
Right.
So.
Yeah. You don't have to do what you're doing. But your decision was, doing nothing is not an option.
Right.
That's, I believe, how we used to be as a society, getting involved. I mean, community. I live in a community on my street, my block, where I say, hello, neighbor. I think in a lot of cases we don't do that enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they say good fences make good neighbors, but really, there's a balance.
Yeah.
Where you do want to get to know them. And here's the other things, like we don't know when they're coming back, but neighbors do, family members do.
Sure.
And so if we can catch them when they first come back and help them transition, because if you think about it, they're homeless and unemployed because where they've been living and their job is ended.
It's all set for them. They have it all, right?
Yeah,
And then they
so
come
when
back.
they're done, so unless they've really planned or had a good support system to help them when they got back. I've had veterans tell me that if it wasn't for their family, they'd be homeless. I've had veterans tell me that they were couch surfing because they had nowhere to come back to. And financial literacy is not really on the list of the agenda of things that are taught in the military either. So they're not necessarily budgeting and planning for when they get out. And just like kids go off to college and credit card companies send them credit cards, they're like, okay, it's easy to get access to that, and then they wind up in debt. And again, not through any fault of their own. Most of them enlist right out of high school. So if you don't know what you don't know, how are you going to know, right?
I mean, listen, if you're a 28-year-old young man or young woman, right?
If you're 18 and you serve 4 years, you're only 22 when you get out.
So if you're 22 and you haven't gone into the military, right, and you had to go, maybe you went away to college, right, and fended for yourself, those individuals still getting credit card debt. So if you have no context of it, because somebody's been making sure you're fed and you're housed and everything like that, and you come and you're 22 after doing 4 years. You haven't learned anything there either, and maybe it's worse because you haven't had to live on your own at all. The thing is, I want to understand really, having not been to your conference last year, and I will be there this year, what the intention of the conference is to educate and give access. Is that a good assessment?
My biggest goal is to the people that are not in the veteran community to kind of be aware and become enraged.
Become enraged.
Enraged that this.
Nice.
Oh, I had no idea this is how the veteran community is functioning.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you an example. And I'm sorry if I get emotional because these are people. One of the mothers that I met, her son was a Marine. Came back after serving his time. And she could tell that there was something wrong. And she begged him to go to the VA. Because right? In her mind, the
That
VA is where you
They have
go.
the answers for you,
Right.
yeah?
And he did finally agree to go, and he went, and there was a waiting list, a waiting time period. Well, during that waiting period, he took his own life.
I'm so sorry.
So in her mind, it's always going to be, what if I had done something differently? There shouldn't be a waiting period. If you're depressed and someone's suicidal, they need immediate help.
What it takes.
And we know they have post-traumatic stress because the VA is admitting that 24% of those serving now have post-traumatic stress.
24%.
And so if that's what they're admitting to, there's probably more.
Sure.
So, you know, and again, there shouldn't be any stigma. They've been put in very high stress situations.
How could you not be stressed?
Yeah.
How could you not have post-traumatic stress disorder being in those environments? What it takes, what it took for the young man to reach out and finally reach out and have his mom get him to the VA and the whole thing, it's a travesty. He wasn't served by this country that he served. That's I don't know if it's criminal, but it's tragic.
You know, and to their defense, you know, maybe they're understaffed and overworked.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
But you know, again, there's a disconnect. The services are there, and maybe they could have directed him. They should have directed him to some immediate help, but somebody or someone dropped the ball, right? And that poor woman now has to live her life with what if.
Yeah.
You know, and then she has, you know, another child. So not only did that sibling lose a brother that day, she also lost her mother because that woman will never be the same.
Because she'll never be the same.
You know, and that's another reason why I'm doing the conference and resource fair is I'm trying to give her a reason to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And that is, we couldn't save your child, let's save the next.
Purpose.
And give her a purpose. And that's what everyone needs in life. They need a purpose. They need a sense of community, of belonging, love, something.
She needs purpose, right?
Yeah.
But the veterans who are coming home need purpose, right?
Yes.
So when we talked earlier this week, it was also having veterans involved with the initiatives and the mission that you're on is important as well because they now have purpose, right?
Well, you know, a lot of our volunteers are veterans themselves. Yeah. And they're not necessarily doing it to help themselves, but they are helping themselves because you always feel better when you're helping out someone else. Mm-hmm. And so the best thing you could ever do is get involved with some type of charity, community of function, find the passion that you have, in some way donate your time, your money, your resources, your talents, and you will feel better about yourself. You know, whenever I had a bad day, I used to say, I felt sorry for myself because I had no shoes until I met a man that had no feet. It kind of puts your life in perspective.
Yeah.
Like I said, my daughter's doing okay. I'm not doing it because I'm panicking. My daughter has post-traumatic stress. Maybe she does. She just, you know, she's not going to share with me because she's the typical strong military person. You know, she's an officer in the Army. So I want to know when I go to bed at night that I did everything in my power to try to make it a little better. And whether I'm successful or not, at least I tried. And I don't want to ever say, you know, what if I had done more? I'm trying to do as much as I can.
You're going to leave it all out there.
Put it out there and hope and get other people to do the same. And I'm excited that so many people are rallying to try to, you know, just the fact that we're having this and trying to get not just the veterans and their family members to come, but the community at large to just come in and kind of, you know, open the veil and kind of see this is what's going on. And not to blame anyone, not to blame the VA or anything else, but because they're actually are trying to do things. They've given free park access now to veterans, realizing that they have to try different things. Acupuncture and massage therapy have been added as acceptable treatments for post-traumatic stress. So I believe that they're trying to make a difference as well, but it's not just up to them. It's we as a community.
The humans there are trying to do that. It's the systems, I think, that make challenges sometimes. You know, it's the systematic things that we need to go in and try to overhaul and make corrections and things like that. But at the end of the day, to your point, I think
you know, you're right that the people want to help. Sometimes it's not as easy because there's bureaucracy and different things.
Right.
I want to ask you, because the conference is coming up soon, so I want you to shout out the dates, shout out when and where, how people can connect and learn more about the conference, and we'll share that as well. But I just talk about it.
It's Saturday, March 29th. It is from 10 to 1. It's at the Experience on 180 Commerce Drive in Hauppauge, which is a catering facility / sports simulation / restaurant. We've taken over the whole place.
That's awesome.
And the Experience is one of our sponsors, so
Nice.
we are definitely indebted to them. And then we've had other community businesses step up and just trying to help us get the word out as well. Because again, there just is a need for information. But to me, is, you know, the conference title is "You're Not Alone." I just want the veteran community to realize that they are not alone. So it's not just for the veterans themselves, it's for the soldier, airman, sailor that's just coming back, that if they need support in any way, do they need help getting a job, do they need help with housing, do they want to go back to school or learn a trade. You know, there are organizations out there, the resources are there, but if you're depressed and you have to sit on hold for 20 minutes and call an 800 number, you know, you can't always do that, and sometimes you just give up because you don't want to put yourself through that. You know, I hate being on hold for 40 minutes.
Sure.
Can you imagine if you're having some type of crisis or anxiety?
No, and I can't imagine, and I know when somebody has gotten to the point where they're ready to reach out for help, what it took to get to that point in a lot of cases for a lot of individuals who declined the help, or, as you mentioned, you know, the help is in the veteran community, maybe the help is there for someone else, and, you know, that sort of thing. But when you get to the point and reach out and say, I'm ready, and then there's more friction, you know, that's the unfortunate part of this, is like it takes so much to get to that point to ask, and then to make it more difficult, it feels like, you know, people go, well, maybe there's not an answer, you know.
Well,
and there is, maybe there's not an answer is not the thing, gang. I'm saying that might be, there is an answer, there is a help, there is opportunity, there is people looking for you, and there's access. 988, by the way, gang, if you need help right now, 988. That is somewhere where you can get resources and help 24/7, 365. That's available. Then there's, you know, I can't give you a place to call me and say I have resources for you all the time, but that's what we're creating here in this community, and I know that's what you're doing with the conference as well.
Yeah, well, we want to be their surrogate family, you know, so if they don't have a family or a strong support system when they get back, we want them to realize that they're not alone. We're your surrogate family. Tell us what you need. We'll try to help. We don't have all the answers, just like you always say, but collectively we can figure it out.
The answers are there, right?
Well, you
it's
know,
about
there's
just
so
accessing.
many generous, caring people out there. Given if you tell them what you need, you know, if you told me today, Tommy, I really need a table, you know, and I put out there, you know, and who has a table? Yeah. Somebody will say, I have a table, you know, and that's really what it's about. But you know, the part of the problem is, if I broke my leg and, you know, you could see my cuts, you would say, okay, we need to go to the doctor, and it's important we take care of it immediately. When you don't see the scars are there. When you don't see the scars, people are like, oh, you know, like, he'll be okay. Just having a bad day, or he's just having a bad moment.
We wouldn't treat somebody injured that way, the way we treat somebody injured, you know, when it comes to an emotional and mental injury. It's wrong, it's inappropriate. So let's get to the question that I want to ask, and I always do. Through your eyes, Rosemarie, how do we end the stigma?
Do exactly what I'm doing, is get together and let them know that you're there for them, that if they ever need to call, you know, sometimes just a hug goes a long way.
Love hugs.
Right, just saying, I'm here if you ever want to talk. Someone who's, again, struggling, every holiday I invite them to my house. And they usually say no, but this year on Thanksgiving, they came. And, you know, and I had to invite them for Christmas, and they said no, but you know what they said? Maybe next year. Yeah. So keep asking.
What the ripple
keep
is,
asking.
what an advancement that is, right? Check in, I always say check in on your people, reach out, check in, let people know that you're there. You know, it's critically important.
Don't stop asking.
Don't stop.
Keep asking and asking.
Yeah.
Because even if they don't come, the fact that you ask shows that you care.
Sure.
When you stop asking, they think that you stopped caring.
So it's even worse, right?
It's even worse. Yeah.
But and when you continue to ask, it's getting closer and closer. Like this individual did come for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And now set an intention in their own mind that, yeah, maybe next Christmas.
Yeah.
So that's a game changer.
Right. And to me, that means I made a difference because, you know, everyone deserves to be happy.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
And if they served our country,
Yeah.
and defended us. You know,
Yeah.
you think military, everyone thinks like the infantry person with the rifle.
Mhm.
But, you know, when there's a fire, when there's a flood, there's an earthquake,
Right.
who's coming? They're
Yeah.
the cavalry, they're coming.
Sure.
You know, so when something happens, they're protecting us at all different levels.
Yeah.
And least we could do. I always say, you know, Memorial Day or Veterans Day, people are always patriotic and they say, thank you for your service, right? I say, don't say that. Say, thank you for your service. How may I be of service to you now?
That's a game changer. When you told me that on Monday when we were talking, that's a game changer. That's one extra question, and what it does is it shows I care. I can help you, right? And I think it also, the person who's offering the help, the veteran, that's very important for them too, because they get to give back and they get to bring that person along and bring that person in. Saving lives, this isn't like just, oh, it's a nice to do. This is life-saving stuff that we're talking about here.
And you know, something as simple as, oh, Tommy, you just got back. Do you have a job yet? Do you need someone to help you with your resume?
Right.
Help you with your interviewing skills? Or let's figure out how your being a military ballistics experts will translate to a civilian job, you know?
Yeah.
Those little things, you know, if you get them on the right path,
Right.
that is going to change the trajectory of their life.
100%. Now I have purpose. Now I have a community that I'm in. I go to a work or place, an office, a field, wherever I am in that business, and I'm connected, and people are counting on me to show up and do the thing, whatever the thing is. And then it's like, well, I'm not disconnected. I'm not depressed because I'm part of something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what it is. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the conference. Thank you for I want to sing. Thank you for being my friend. I mean it though. It's critically important what you do. And please don't stop. I know you won't, but please don't.
And we could all make a difference.
We can. We
you
can.
do it your way, I do it my way.
100%. We use the platform we have and we change the world. And that's what we're doing on this show. And I promise you, I'll continue to bring you very important guests, telling very important stories. We're going to answer things together. We're going to solve some problems together. We're going to create community, and we're going to change the paradigm. We're going to change the paradigm that there's a stigma around this conversation. We're going to make this conversation normalized, where everybody can talk about going to see a therapist, everybody can talk about asking for support, and everybody can make this better for each other. I appreciate you all. Keep checking in with us. If you have resources you want to share with me, we're going to get you all the information at the end of the show here. But if you want to come on the show because you have something to add to this conversation, reach out. Let's connect. This has been another In Focus production. Thanks so much. Make it a great day.